How's it going, guys? It's been a hot minute. I'm going to be talking about DDD today, and this is quite an incredible deck, to be honest. But it's quite infamous in that it is probably known as the most complex deck in Yu-Gi-Oh, I reckon. There's definitely some decks that come very close, indeed, but this is definitely up there because it essentially you're using all of the summoning mechanics apart from ritual. So your link summoning, your pendulum, your Xyz summoning, your synchro, your fusion, you're doing all of that jazz. And the thing I love the most about DDD is it's one of those decks that you can sort of build your board on the fly as well. And it really feels good when you're able to sort of correct things and just go in a different direction. I'm going to just be explaining the cards as best to my ability. I have tried tackling DDD on this channel before, but this was back when the deck first got Gilgamesh, the Link 2. We were still in... I think we were either still in Master Rule 4 at the time, or we had just come out of it. So it was a long time ago, and they've had a lot of support cards since then, and I'm just going to talk about the deck and I'll just get the ball rolling. So, we'll go from starters to extenders, and then we'll talk about the rest of the deck. So, obviously, we've got 3 copies of Kepler. The effect you're going to want to be using most of the time is on normal or special. You can add a Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand. It's a scale 10, which means in a pinch you can use it as a high scale to pendulum summon more good stuff. Also, you can target another DD card you control and return it to the hand on summon as well. So there are some mid to late game scenarios where by bouncing your own stuff, like a Queen Machinex that's stuck in the scale, can actually be really useful because it gives you essentially the ability to activate another contract from the deck, right? And speaking of, we've got 3 of Queen Machinex. This is a new card, so the effect that you're mostly going to be using is if it's activated in the pendulum scale during the main phase, you can place any Dark Contract card from your deck in your spell and trap zone. The Dark Contracts are essentially the deck's gimmick, so you take 1,000 burn damage in your standby phase if they're still face up, but they give you really powerful effects like searching monsters, summoning monsters from deck, destroying cards, fusion summoning. DDD has so many cards to use, and it's ridiculous. But still talking about Queen Machinex is, while she's face up in the pendulum scale, it hops out of the extra deck when a DDD or Dark Contract is destroyed, and in the same effect, it can destroy a card on the field, so it can destroy your cards, your opponent's cards, what have you. Just hops out of the extra deck, face up. Because obviously if pendulum cards leave the field, they get sent to the face-up extra deck. But you'd have to have a free Link Zone or a EMZ free in order to do this, so the extra monster zone. Incredible utility, and the fact that it can just jump out of the extra deck out of nowhere is really good, along with popping a card, all in the same effect. It's quite good, and it's quite difficult to stop. Now this is kind of a pseudo starter, pseudo extender. We've got 2 Count Surveyors. Now I was only on 1 copy before, but now that there's no need to use cards like Orthros or Defense Soldier anymore, I feel that bumping this card up a copy is quite nice. More than often you have sufficient discard outlets to summon it, so you can discard a card, special summon it from hand, and then on summon you can add a DD monster with 0 attack or 0 defense from your deck to your hand. So this includes cards like Scale Surveyor, Kepler, Copernicus, cards like that. Oh, and it can also add Doom Queen as well, because Doom Queen has 0 defense. Now let's move on to the extenders. So there are some DD cards I'm going to gloss over, some of the pendulum effects, but they do come up. So with Count Surveyor, if you pendulum summon a DDD monster, you can target 3 monsters your opponent controls with the same type or attribute as each other. Tribute 2 of those 3 face-up monsters, and if you do, the third gains attack and defense equal to the total attack and defense of the tributed monsters had on the field. So I believe in scale this can provide some form of removal, but again, this just adds to how complex the deck is, because a lot of these pendulum effects people do gloss over, and even myself, it's like I don't think I've ever resolved that effect, because 9 times out of 10 you'll want to be summoning your Count Surveyor because the more appealing effect is the search. But it's still something you need to think about. So anyway, before going completely off topic, we will talk about DD Griffin. So it can special summon itself from the hand if you control a DD monster. And it has multiple effects depending on where it's summoned from. So if it's pendulum summoned, you can discard a DD or Dark Contract to draw a card. If it's summoned from the graveyard, you can add a DD card from your deck to your hand. Yeah, this is a really, really good card. It's instant free off because DD really likes having extenders. Because you don't really get that many. DD Griffin and Scale Surveyor are kind of the only 2 proper extenders you get. But its scale effect is something that you do need to talk about, because in scale you can target any fiend monster you control. It gains 500 attack until the end of the turn for each Dark Contract, spell or trap currently on your field or graveyard. Then you destroy it. So it can free itself up from the scale, giving you the ability to place different things and do other things like that. Like Gilgamesh, for example, the Link 2, you can't activate its effect if you have either of your scales full. So if for some reason you're having to put Griffin in scale, yeah, you want to get rid of it, so it's kind of important. The fact that it can just remove itself like that, which is really good. And you always want to see this card end up in the graveyard, because your DDD monsters can revive them, so like Genghis and Ragnarok, and then you get more searches, which is really important. We've got 3 copies of Scale Surveyor. It's Scale 9, which is really good. Its Pendulum Scale effect isn't too important, so during the standby phase you can target up to 2 cards in the Pendulum Zones and have their scales become 0 until the end of the turn. It can be quite useful if you've got awkward scale numbers that you've had to place. So for example, if you're stuck with only having Abyss Ragnarok in the scale, and you want to be able to get more value out of it, so you can have 5 and 9 and then turn that into a 0 and then pendulum summon more stuff without having to go too crazy. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about its effect. So if you control a DD Pendulum Monster card, you can special summon it from your hand. Now, a Pendulum Monster card is what you see here. If it's in the scale, you'll still be able to summon it, because the frame, the actual card itself, even while it's in the scale, is still treated as a monster card, but it's activated as a spell card. Yeah, Pendulum, I'm still convinced that the people who made these types of cards thought it was a mistake, but at the same time, it's a crazy effect. It can be a bit awkward, because occasionally you'll just hard open hand traps, Lance Soldier and this, and you're kind of stuck, and because Lance Soldier's not a pendulum. Well, yeah. And also, so it turns itself level 4. You can turn itself into a level 4 on summon as well, meaning you can go into your rank 4 Exceeds plays, helps you make Synchro 8s. The amount of utility is crazy, and not to mention, if it's sent to the graveyard or face-up extra deck, you can bounce one of your pendulum scales back to the hand. So it's sort of like a better Kepler effect. There are routes where you have to, the only option you have is to place Doom Queen and Scale Surveyor or something from the deck with Gilgamesh, and in order to actually get the most value out of your Doom Queen's effect, by sending this off to the graveyard, you can bounce it, reactivate it, and then you've essentially given yourself free reign to combo off more. Really just depends on what kind of hand traps your opponent has, right? But the deck now has so much more utility in playing into these sorts of hand traps. So yeah. One copy of Copernicus. It's a brick now. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do anything by itself. But by summoning it out after you've used your gates and stuff, you send your Lance Soldier, and then that's basically how you get your combos going off. If you've got a contract, this essentially, pardon me, resembles Siegfried. If you open a Dark Contract with the gate, it's still an imperative card to play because without it, the majority of your main combos are sort of scuffed, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's a scale 1, and that's quite useful in a pinch as well. It's very searchable, and yeah, Copernicus is still played. Now we've got one of the newer cards, Lance Soldier. So if it's in the graveyard, you can target a DD, a Dark Contract on your field, and you can special summon it. And you can target a DD monster you control and have it increase its level by up to the amount of Dark Contracts on field or grave. So a lot of people might think, well, surely you're only just making synchros with this. Well, early plays in this deck, actually, by making the Lance Soldier a level 4, most of the time you are making your rank 4 Solomon because you just want searches, right? But there are so many other different things you can do. You go into Clovis, revive, and then bring out Siegfried. Keep the Clovis on the field to make like a High King Caesar. The possibilities really are endless. And the one Necro Slime, this card just gets a million times more value off of Alfred existing now. So it and another DD name engrave is instant Caesar, meaning that you can route your way into Caesar really early now, and that is more reliable protection against cards like Nibiru, right? Meaning that once you get into your Ragnarok, you can save the Ragnarok's hand negate effect on something, different. What else can I say? Necro Slime fuses by banishing itself and another DD from graveyard. Yeah, it's crazy. You're dumping this all of the time off of your like Marksman Kingtail and just going crazy. And now I'd like to talk about a card that I've only just subbed in with the inclusion of Alfred, and that is one singular copy of DD Swirl Slime. Now, this card's been cut, and for good reason. I would understand exactly why no one would want to play this card, but I think it does have its uses. So it's essentially your Fuse from Hand card. So by using itself and another DD in hand, you can fusion summon a DD monster. And the deck's playing quite a high amount of, like, higher than level 5 DD names now. So being able to, like, early access something like High King Genghis gives you, like, Imperm and Dominus Impulse protection, right? So you can ensure your cards, like, your normal summons go through. That's just something I just wanted to talk about. It's also an extender in the grave, so if you've got a DD in your hand, you can banish it to summon one out of the hand. Again, it's not for everyone, but I think with the ability to take out cards like Orthros and Defense Soldier, a place for this card is something nice, and it's something I just wanted to test out. One copy of Ragnarok. You want it in the scale as soon as possible, because in the scale, if you special a DD, you can bring one back from the grave. If you manage to normal or special summon it, you can target a DDD monster in your graveyard and summon it, and you can tribute another DD monster to target a monster your opponent controls and banish it. It has so much utility. Pseudo brick as well, but once it goes off, it's crazy. You can chain block with it. It's imperative that you play this card. Now moving on to the spells, we've just got the one copy of Nightmare Throne for consistency value. Any more copies and it is just bad, because sometimes you'll just see that and you'd rather see a DD name you want to pitch off of something. But again, it searches a 0/0, so it gets you like Copernicus or Kepler, which is, again, quite nice. We've got 3 copies of Dark Contract with the Gates. Simply put, continuous spell adds a DD monster from deck to hand, ignition effect, and you take the 1000 burn in the standby phase if it's still up. One copy of Zero King. This is the main card you want to be placing off of your Doom Queen, but it's also one of the hardest, like, small choke points in the deck. So when you want to play this, you want to try and find some routes around your plays before committing to it, because if it gets hit like early with a really impactful bit of non-engine, you might find yourself between a bit of a rock and a hard place. But the deck has so many ways to play around things that the only real hand trap the deck is fully terrified of nowadays is Molchami Fualos. And when you see the non-engine that's in here, then it will become all the more apparent, right? I'm playing one contract with the Witch simply because you can destroy your own cards with it. It helps you dodge interruption. It's a pop. It's quite a grindy card. I really like it. This can be subbed out for like DD Headhunt, which is also a very powerful card in and of itself. But I really like Dark Contract with the Witch because, you know, it's just got that extra little bit of oomph. And it's a Dark Contract as well, meaning that a neat thing you can do, especially now with the inclusion of Alfred, is you can, in your opponent's turn, if this has been destroyed, if you've had to destroy it, you can banish Alfred and this from the graveyard, and then providing you've got a DDD monster face up, you can trigger the effect of Alfred. So you've banished it with like Zeus Ragnarok, right? You can negate one of your opponent's hand effects with the Zeus, and then by banishing this and Alfred will trigger, and then it will replace the Dark Contract with the Witch. And yeah, that's quite an interesting thing to consider. Now on to non-engine. Now, let's see if you can notice a trend here. So first of all, we're starting off with free Ash. It's pretty self-explanatory that everyone plays Ash. It was hit to 2 in the OCG for a reason. We've got 3 copies of Molchami Fualos. We have 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird. And we have 1 copy of Called by the Grave and 1 Crossout. Now, because Molchami Fualos is such a nuisance for this deck, 9 times out of 10 you're not playing your Ash and your Droll to stop your opponent, although it does help a lot when that happens. You're using them to, you know, either Droll yourself after being Fuad, or using the Ash to negate your opponent's Fualos. Like, the card is a menace. It really is. And yeah, the Called By and the Crossout are in there just primarily to combat it. And I'd say the only real, like, flex spots in terms of things you can chop and change is I've gone with the 2 Ghost Bells, and I've gone with 3 copies of Dominus Impulse. The deck's mono dark, mostly, I believe. So this card is, you know, something you can play. Now onto the extra deck. Apologies, this has gone on quite long, but it's DDD. What else would you possibly expect from a deck so involved? So for links, I'm playing the 1 copy of the new Sky King Zeus Ragnarok. It's a link free. It's insane. So you can target a DD or Dark Contract you control and destroy it, and then you get a second Pendulum Summon. And if your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand while you have a DD or Dark Contract in your graveyard, you banish both of them to negate it. So this is your insulation, basically. 2 copies of Gilgamesh. On summon, places 2 scales from your deck, and then you take 1,000 damage. Just crazy combo style. The fact that 2 DDs can make this gets you your scales, and you get the ball rolling from there, essentially. Solomon, new rank 4. Detach a material to search, and if you banish it, you can apply it to a monster on your field so that if it destroys a monster by battle, you burn the opponent equal to that monster's attack. So there's some interesting situations which I'll talk about in a minute. 1 copy of Wave King Caesar. You're primarily making this if you want to get more access to contracts, because if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Dark Contract from your deck to your hand. It's kind of a late combo sort of card, but it's very useful regardless. 1 King Tell. This can be slapped on a DDDXE's monster, and well, a rank 4 in particular, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can dump a DD from your DD or Dark Contract from deck to grave. And also, it has a burn effect, so you can detach a material to it to target a face-up monster on the field and have it gain 1,000, have it lose 1,000 attack, and defense. And if it does, you burn your opponent for 1,000. So, I mean, in the old time rules, this was quite a nuisance, but yeah, there it is. But yeah, it's a non-once per turn Foolish Burial if it's sent to the graveyard. So, yeah. It hasn't been reprinted in ages, which is a bit annoying. So, yeah. 2 copies of Machinex. So, Machinex can be slapped on any DDD monster. If your opponent activates a monster card effect on the field, you can blow up a Dark Contract or detach 2 from Machinex to attach that card to it as a material. Machinex is an incredible end board piece to have, because that's not once per turn. So as long as you have contract or materials, you get that many points of interaction. It's quite an easy card for your opponent to disrupt, but it being there means your opponent kind of has to find a way to deal with it. Otherwise, they don't really have much else in the way of doing things. So its scale effect is if you have a card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can target a Pendulum monster you control or in your graveyard, special summon the card in your other Pendulum Zone, and if you do, place the targeted Pendulum monster in your Pendulum Zone. Yeah, finding a way to get Machinex into the Pendulum scale is always an interesting thing, but it can place itself there in the standby phase, I believe, if you want to. So, say if you've used up all of its materials or you have no contracts left, you can put it in the scale. It's a scale 10, which is, pretty important. High King Caesar. Many of you may know High King Caesar from its infamous time as the end board piece for Fiendsmith, but you make the card in this deck the way it was intended, 2 level 6 Fiends. You also get the 1800 damage boost on 2 of your cards as well, if you successfully negate something, so that's also really good. Now onto the fusions. We've got one of the new King Alfred. It's got an ignition effect to fusion summon using monsters from your field, hand, or banishment, which is crazy by shuffling them back in. Level 6 Fiend, material. If it's banished and you've got DDs on the field, you can place Dark Contracts from your grave or banishment up to the number of DDDs you've got out. I apologise for that. Pronunciation. I'm actually losing my mind talking about this deck. I do apologise, everybody. But it's very involved, and it's a deck I do actually recommend people like tinkering around with, because it just does so many different things, and I do believe it's a deck that actually makes you a bit better at the game. 1 Genghis, again, your other small fusion monster. It carries a similar effect to Ragnarok, for that it, when you special summon a DD monster, you can revive a DD from the graveyard. It helps trigger your cards like Griffin, helps make your synchro plays even more consistent. It's crazy. Genghis is always the OG. We love him. 1 High King Genghis for that on your own turn effect, spell trap effect negation, and also it can revive monsters from your graveyard as well, similar to Small Genghis. Art Crisis. This guy's got a lot of words, but to break it down for you in the simplest of ways, Crisis in scale can blow up Dark Contracts to spit Armageddon DDDs out of your deck or extra, I believe. You contact fuse it by banishing a Fusion, Synchro, Ixies, and Pendulum DDD monster from your field or grave. On summon it, Dark Rulers your opponent's board. It can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. And if you banish cards like your Solomon, it gives it burn damage. If you banish like Clovis, it gives it piercing. And with Clovis, this is like your level 6 Synchro, which was really needed for the deck, because it can revive any of your banished DD monsters on summon. And if you happen to have a contract up, it can also bring one back from the graveyard. So yeah, also another level 6 Fiend, which is crazy. And then finally, to wrap it off, we've got Siegfried, level 8 Synchro. It's basically Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. Target a face-up spell trap card and negate it. Anyway, guys, this is That was DDD. Yeah, I'd love to have been able to explain the deck a lot more for you, but it's just such an involved deck. But it's also a deck I really recommend you picking up and trying, because there's so many different routes that deck can take, and it's really enjoyable if you're into that sort of stuff. Like, you have to be a really good pilot, and I am in no way considering myself like a good pilot or player or anything in that thing, but I do have the years of experience behind my back, and I can say that without question, this deck is the deck that has tested me the most over time, right? So I hope you've enjoyed it. I do apologise for rambling on a bit. Hopefully this doesn't take too long to upload. But yeah, that's been DDD. I'm going to be trying to make like a small deep dive video on Atlantean Mermail soon, and talking about why it's probably one of the most hated decks, but it's also a deck that you should try playing as well. Anyway, guys, thank you very much, and thank you for watching.